Welcome to the last stop in your Business Continuity Management System learning journey. My name is Almay, and I will be your guide as we learn more about Business Continuity Plan or BCP Test Plan. But before we dive into that, let's do a quick recap of what you've learned so far. In the first learning module, you learned about what a BCMS is and how it benefits organizations. Then, you learn about the different documents organizations should prepare in order to establish their own BCMS. Our topic for today, the BCP Test Plan, is the last of those 7 documents. Let's take a closer look at this plan, the BCP Test Plan. The BCP Test Plan is a critical component of a BCMS because it helps an organization figure out how effective its BCMS is. It also gives responsible parties, the people within the organization who will execute the business continuity plan, a better idea of what will be needed of them if and when a crisis hits. Think of the BCP test as the final graded recitation for the organization. By the time it gets to this stage, it has already done a lot of studying and preparing. It has looked at all the possible crisis scenarios it could face. It has dug deep for possible solutions and strategies to recover from these disasters. And it has assigned roles to people within the organization who know what to do when a crisis happens and who are prepared to act. And now with the BCP test plan, the organization will see if all the preparation is enough. The 4 types of testing. There are 4 types of testing an organization can be subjected to as part of the BCP test plan. First is the walkthrough. In this type of test, the people within the organization who have roles in the BCP gather together to review the business continuity plan. Among themselves, they discuss the correctness of the plan, they verify if the tasks outlined in the plan are doable, and they also talk about the practicality of the plan. This discussion will likely result in changes to the BCP as the participants gain insights from each other and challenge each other on the best ways to respond to a crisis or emergency. During the walkthrough, it's important that these insights are documented so that they can be incorporated into the BCP to help improve it. The next type of testing is called tabletop testing. Like the walkthrough, tabletop testing is a discussion-based exercise. But unlike the walkthrough, tabletop testing involves a hypothetical crisis situation. The participants, again, those people who have roles in the BCP, gather together and are presented with a crisis scenario such as a big earthquake that is supposed to hit Metro Manila. The participants then discuss how they would respond to this specific scenario based on the organization's BCP. This is also a good time for the organization to look at its Crisis Management Plan or CMP. Let's make a distinction here. The BCP is designed to ensure that the organization is able to continue its critical business operation. The CMP, on the other hand, details the steps to be taken to handle the crisis, especially if it affects the organization's brand, reputation, and image. Going back to our earthquake scenario, one task under the BCP will probably be to activate an alternate site where employees can continue working in case the organization's main headquarters is damaged and unsafe for people. Under the same crisis scenario, a task under the CMP will probably be to issue a press statement to the media assuring the public that the organization will be able to continue operating, albeit in a scaled-down capacity despite the earthquake disruption. As with the walkthrough, it's important to document the results of the tabletop testing, especially the questions that may arise regarding the gaps in the organization's BCP and CMP. Again, these insights and questions will help strengthen the BCP and better prepare the organization for a crisis. The third type of testing is the simulation. As the name suggests, this test is no longer merely discussion-based. Similar to tabletop testing, participants are given a hypothetical crisis situation during simulation. But instead of just talking about how they would then handle that situation, the participants will have to follow the procedures detailed in their BCP. Meaning, they will have to execute the task they're responsible for. Compared to the 2 previous types of tests, simulation gives the participants an even better idea of how effective their BCP is. They even get the chance to experience how long it will actually take them to execute the task assigned to them. And in doing so, Maybe some personnel will realize they can't carry out their role in the BCP or they need additional help. These are all important insights that a simulation can uncover. Again, documenting the results of the simulation is very important. The organization can also conduct a debriefing after the simulation so that everyone involved can discuss the outcomes, what worked well, what didn't, and what's missing in the BCP. This will all help improve the BCP and also better prepare the personnel involved in the execution. The last test type is called wargaming. And yes, it is as serious as it sounds. Wargaming is a lot like simulation. The participants are also given hypothetical crisis situation and they have to respond to it by going through the procedures detailed in their BCP. But with wargaming, multiple departments within the organization are involved. This means the participants can be from IT, marketing, sales, purchasing, all being tested at the same time to see if they can execute the BCP and work well together during a crisis. This gives an organization an even better picture of the effectivity of its BCP because it can see how the different departments will work with and affect each other as the BCP is executed. This could uncover even more gaps in the BCP, which the organization can then address before an actual crisis occurs. Now, deciding on the type of test to be performed depends on an organization's maturity. A company with a well-established business continuity management system will likely want to go through wargaming so that its plans are truly tested and its personnel are challenged. But for a company that is only beginning to build its BCMS and is maybe a startup, subjecting it to a simulation test will probably cause more harm than good. Can you imagine having to evacuate the company's entire office as part of the test? This would be highly disruptive for an organization that is probably still unprepared. How to execute a holistic test? Regardless of which test is performed, there are a number of must-dos to keep in mind in order to execute a holistic test. First is preparation. The personnel who will be involved in the test should familiarize themselves with the organization's BCP and their respective roles in it. Remember how I said BCP testing is like graded recitation for the finals? Personnel should prepare with that in mind because if they undergo simulation or wargaming, their decisiveness or indecisiveness will reflect on the results. Then of course, there's the actual testing. Again, regardless which test is being performed, personnel should take it seriously and commit to it. That means they should focus on the task at hand and not be distracted by calls, emails, or requests from other co-workers not related to the actual testing. Remember, this test is being performed to prepare the organization to respond in case of a disaster or emergency. If personnel can't focus during testing, which happens during a period of calm, how will they expect to focus then when a crisis actually happens? The third must-do is to document the results. As I was walking you through the different types of tests, I repeatedly mentioned this, that it's important that people's responses, questions, and issues during the test are well documented. This will serve as the basis for evaluating the results of the test. Then of course, there's the reporting of the results. Participants should be informed how they did in the test so that they're aware of what they did right and which areas they needed to improve. Which leads us to our next must-do, address the findings. Earlier, I explained to you that during testing, gaps in the BCP may be uncovered since personnel are discussing the correctness and feasibility of the plans, or they're seeing for the first time what exactly they're required to do if a crisis hits. If the test reveals significant gaps, these gaps should be addressed immediately. Once that's done, the BCP should be updated to reflect these changes and improvements. Finally, the organization should monitor the closure. This means that the organization should stay on top of the gaps and findings uncovered by the test and make sure those are all resolved before putting the BCP test plan to bed. That completes our Business Continuity Management System learning journey. We know that was a lot to unpack and to absorb, but if there's anything we want you to take away from this learning journey, it is this. Establishing a BCMS is a must for any organization that wants to survive in this uncertain, volatile world. The coronavirus pandemic is just another proof of how unpredictable our lives have become. With the BCMS, an organization can have some measure of control over that unpredictability. Because with the BCMS, the organization has a framework and the right tools for responding regardless of the crisis. Thank you for joining us on this BCMS learning journey. We hope you learned a lot and that you're now prepared to go out there with a mentality of readiness.